I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result,
the moms would take the babies and they'd try to throw them over the walls. Well, guess what's on either side of the wall? Concertina wire. There's concertina wire on both sides of this wall.
Christ.
So these babies would land in the wire, and we're in the middle of moving, hundreds of people at a time, like smuggling them past the Taliban, and I'm stepping over a baby in water, or there's like a small body that's on fire that was burnt alive by the Taliban. One of the teams, as they went out into Kabul, and they just missed it by seconds. They're going to go pick up this woman that was a journalist for the Afghan one of the Afghan news organizations, but the Taliban got to her first. They pull up, the Taliban see these guys in the car, they drop her on the hood of the car, and they execute her on the car as they just look at the dudes in the car. There's nothing that they can do. Just execute her. This was every day.
America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war.
Let's talk about how the U.S. is funding Taliban.
Oh, that's a harsh statement to say, right? Yes.
It is.
Your tax dollars are funding the Taliban right now. And this has been going on since September 2021. On a weekly basis, the United States, the current administration, Mr. Joe Biden, has been sending $40 million, not from his own checking account. It's the U.S. payers, Americans' tax dollars. He's sending them $40 million cash every week that ends up in Afghanistan. If Mr. Biden wins this election, the Taliban will stay in power for another 4 years.
And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century.
American troops stationed in a combat zone watch the debate as Kamala Harris states there are no American troops in combat zones.
I'll tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century.
What?
But let's understand.
So where the fuck are we right now?
But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not, again, appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish,
What happened to all of the equipment, the weapons, the vehicles, the ammunition, the night vision the U.S. had their stockpile that we were using for the past 20 years? What happened to all that?
The Taliban have all of them, and it's not just the Taliban. We're talking about $86 billion worth of bases, equipment, military equipment, and the items that you mentioned. All were left for the Taliban, and the Taliban are very generous with their brethren in Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Hamas has them, Haqqani has them, Pakistani Taliban, Tehrik-e-Taliban, they have them. The Taliban have given those weapons to everyone. They're even found in places like Yemen. They're found in North Africa. All of these weapons were left behind. The way I look at it, it's the last gift-wrapped item that Mr. Biden left for the Taliban. And they're using that against the Afghan people. Once they're done with the Afghan people, they're going to continue marching west.
they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it.
The Biden administration's final decision in April 2021 was to begin the withdrawal on May 1st, 2021. But the final pullout of all U.S. troops was delayed until September 2021, triggering the start of the collapse of the Afghan National Security Forces. This collapse led to the Taliban takeover of Kabul on 15 August 2021. Me and Kamala screwed the pooch by missing the agreed-upon May pullout date. Once we violated the agreement, the Taliban gave us a spanking.
The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. Tonight, the time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
Okay, kids, we are going to cut the closing statements down to their true meaning and save all of us time and sanity. I hope you enjoyed the 2024 Presidential Debate Survival Guide. Like and subscribe, you dog-faced pony soldiers.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past. But we're not going back.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.